Welcome to The Explainer. I want you to imagine something for a second. Imagine a top-tier Premier League club reaching the dizzying heights of a Champions League semi-final. It's the early 2000s, and you're literally rubbing shoulders with giants like Real Madrid and AC Milan. You are living the absolute dream. But then, within just 3 short years, imagine watching that exact same club face a total, catastrophic collapse. We're talking about a genuine powerhouse here. A club carrying the immense, gritty weight of an entire city, backed by millions of fiercely loyal fans all over the world. They weren't just making up the numbers in a domestic league, you know? They were a heavy-hitting institution, actively terrifying Europe's absolute elite. At their peak, they had built this aura of an untouchable football giant. But here's the cold hard reality. This is a club that nearly disappeared off the map completely, forever. In today's Explainer, we're going to treat this like a forensic investigation into one of football's most shocking financial scandals, and frankly, its biggest warning. How on earth does a team go from conquering Europe to fighting for its very existence? Let's find out.
Okay, let's dive into part 1, the rise of a giant.
To truly understand this devastating fall, you have to understand the sheer height of their rise. On the pitch, a young, absolutely fearless team was performing miracles, taking Leeds United right back to where the fans believed they belonged. But tucked away in the boardroom under then-chairman Peter Ridsdale, a hidden, incredibly dangerous gamble was playing out. The executives called it living the dream, but in reality, it was a high-stakes corporate game of roulette that very few people outside those offices fully grasped. Moving right along to part 2, chasing European glory.
The ambition driving this gamble was singular and ruthless. Unwavering Champions League aspirations fueled massive transfers. We're talking about smashing the British transfer record to sign Rio Ferdinand for £18 million and handing out unprecedented £100,000-a-week contracts. And this brilliantly illustrates the mindset of the time. Management firmly believed that future success on the pitch would easily, automatically pay the bills. They honestly thought they had outsmarted the entire system.
Which brings us to part 3, the ultimate financial gamble. Now, what's real interesting about the mechanics here is how terrifying this strategy actually was. It's called future revenue assumptions, specifically securitization. Basically, the club took out massive loans, reportedly around £60 million, and secured them directly against expected future gate receipts. They were essentially taking out huge mortgages on Champions League games they literally hadn't even qualified for yet. It was a ticking time bomb planted right beneath their own stadium, which leaves us staring at a very terrifying question. So what happens when that future success just never comes? The margins in the Premier League are razor thin. What happens when the ball hits the post or a key player gets injured and the dream abruptly ends? For Leeds United, the margin for error was absolute zero. One single season was about to change everything. Part 4. When disaster strikes. And just like that, the house of cards built entirely on borrowed money finally collapsed. The specific catalyst, the 2001 to 2002 season. When Leeds missed out on Champions League qualification, the trigger was pulled. That was step 1. Instantly, we reached step 2, a total revenue collapse. The future prize money they had already spent simply vanished into thin air, which immediately triggered step 3, crushing debt problems. The income stream they desperately relied on to pay back tens of millions of pounds was just gone. The contrast was sickening for the fans. I mean, you're living like royalty one moment and desperately holding off the administrators the next. They were forced into this humiliating fire sale, auctioning off their absolute biggest stars, guys like Jonathan Woodgate and Rio Ferdinand, to bitter rivals, literally just to pay the interest on the debt. Not even the principal, just the interest. The club plunged from the very peak of the mountain straight into absolute chaos.
Part 5, selling the stars.
This fallout wasn't just felt on spreadsheets or in bank accounts, it was a profound, deeply emotional betrayal felt by an entire city. The immediate departures of the team's most beloved players triggered immense, completely justified fury. Imagine being one of those intensely loyal supporters, helplessly watching your heroes be boxed up and sold off just to keep the stadium lights on. It caused a rapid, horrifying decline on the pitch, but as heart-wrenching as this was, the absolute worst was still coming. Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds into a perfect storm. The spiraling crisis compounded year by brutal year. Missing qualification in year 1 triggered the fire sale in year 2. That gutted squad then plummeted down the table, culminating in a devastating relegation from the Premier League in 2004. By year 4, they weren't fighting for trophies anymore. They were facing total, literal extinction in administration. Finally, Part 6, Relegation and the Rebirth. The club truly hit rock bottom. They even had to endure a grueling stint down in League One, the third tier of English football, burdened by a crushing 15-point deduction right out of the gate. But who saved them? It was the fans. They kept showing up, they kept buying the tickets, traveling to freezing lower league stadiums on Tuesday nights, and their unyielding dedication started an agonizingly slow, multi-decade road back. So the crucial point is this. Leeds United chased a beautiful, breathtaking dream, and for a fleeting moment, it looked like they might actually conquer all of Europe. But instead, they became one of football's biggest cautionary tales. Their story is the ultimate proof that on-pitch success and massive ambition mean absolutely nothing, literally zero, if you don't have true financial stability backing it up. Because if the money runs out, even the biggest giants can fall. It's a terrifying reality of the sport we love. Which leaves us with one final, provocative question to think about. If betting on a future you haven't won yet nearly erased one of England's most iconic clubs, who is making this exact same gamble in football right now? Keep your eyes on the pitch for sure, but always question the numbers behind the glory. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.